Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we are doing something a little bit different. I asked you guys on Instagram if you had any burning questions that you guys wanted to ask me, and you guys turned out. So today is going to be a Q&A video. But before we get started, I need to tell you guys who won the 30k subscriber giveaway. Now, there were so many of you that entered. Oh my gosh, there was over 500 comments for me to read through. And if I'm going to be honest, it's been really hard to choose. So as of filming this video, I have not actually chosen yet. But by the time I post it and you guys see this, I would have chosen. So the winner of the 30k giveaway is... Yeah, I know. So I'm going to pop your YouTube username right here. Congratulations, you've won yourself a sewing machine. So all you need to do to get the sewing machine is just message me on Instagram. I will leave my Instagram right here. Just private message me and then we can get talking. You can give me your address and I will make sure that this sewing machine gets to you. And yeah, so congratulations. Thank you very much for entering, and thank you to everybody else that entered. All of your comments were like so sweet. I was like almost crying for like half of them. You guys are so nice, and it's really nice to know that you guys really enjoy my content, so thank you very much. Yeah, I guess we should get on with these questions. So when I asked you guys on Instagram if you had a lot of questions, there were a lot of sewing related questions, a lot of fabric questions, but also a few personal questions. So I'm gonna try and like round up as much as I can, and hopefully you guys will be satisfied. Okay, so by far the most asked question was like, how did I start sewing and like, what's your sewing journey? So really quick summary, I've been sewing for about 10/11 years. I think it was around 2009. I was working in insurance as a personal assistant, and I didn't really have much going on in terms of like hobbies and stuff. It was just all a bit boring, you know? And around the same time, that's when blogs were starting to get really popular. And there was a DIY blog that I was following. And I saw a clutch bag that I really wanted to make, but you needed a sewing machine to make it, which I did not have. And I had no idea how to even start. So it was almost like, I really want to make this clutch bag. So let's learn how to sew. Let's just learn, and then I can make this really cute bag. I looked online and I found a course where I could go after work for about 4 weeks. It was like 2 hours a week with the Thrifty Stitcher, which I believe still does courses. Her name is Claire, and she had a studio in Stoke Newington. So I signed up for the course, and in my first lesson, I went down there with zero knowledge of how to use a sewing machine. And in that first class, she taught us how to use a sewing machine and thread it, and then we made a cushion. So I walked in with no knowledge and I walked out with a cushion, and it's like my brain exploded. I was just like looking at my hands and staring at this cushion while sitting on the bus like, oh my gosh, I can make all the things, not just the clutch bag, I can make everything. So yeah, that's pretty much where it started. From then on, I've pretty much been learning ever since. That same weekend, I went to John Lewis because they have a haberdashery, and I bought their cheap machine, which was like £95. And then I went to a fabric market that was down the road from where I lived and bought some like £1 a meter fabrics, and I made about 30 cushion covers because that's all I knew how to make. And then after that, it was like buying sewing books, going to loads of fabric shops and like touching, feeling fabrics, hanging around haberdasheries, just like reading loads of blogs. Like that's when I kind of like discovered all the other sewing blogs. And yeah, 10 years later, here we are. So the next question that I got that was quite popular was, what was your first like successful sewing project? Now my first sewing project was that cushion, but my first like successful project that I did by myself without a teacher was actually a Mimi G pattern. So Mimi G's blog was like, for me, like a beacon of light. I was so impressed with like her sewing skills, her style. And around that time, she had some free patterns out. So one of them was just like a maxi dress, which was like a jersey one with like a bandeau top and a stretchy waist. And that was the first project that I made after my 50 cushion covers. I had no idea how to work with jersey, and I had no idea that it wouldn't work with my machine very well, but I bought some jersey and I bought some elastic and I followed the instructions. I wrestled it through my machine, and the sewing was terrible, but when I was done, it was like it was finished. I didn't even hem it. That's how like bad it was. It took me the entire weekend to do it because I just didn't know what the hell I was doing. But when I was done, I was so happy with it. And I was also going to Thailand that year. So I took it with me to Thailand and wore it everywhere. And like, honestly, I thought I was that person. I was just like, yes, look at me. I'm wearing a dress that I made with my own hands. So yeah, I have fond memories of that dress, but like, it was bad. Like if I was to make that dress again now, it would take me literally 20 minutes, not the 15 hours that it took me to make before. So yeah, you definitely learn how to become a little bit faster over time, for sure. Okay, next question. What is your favorite fabric to work with? Oh, okay. So I've worked with a lot of fabrics. I haven't worked with every fabric, so I'm sure there are some others that I'm missing out on. But I would say the easiest fabric to work with is probably cotton. Cotton doesn't give you any stress or anything like that. It cuts really well, it sews well, it steams well, it irons well. It's very easy to manipulate. If you've got pleats or anything like that, gathers, whatever, it just does the thing. You don't have to like wrangle it at all. And you can sew multiple layers and it's still not like gonna be a problem for you. But if I had to say my favorite thing to sew, probably at the moment it's linen. And I think it's just because we're coming off the back of summer, but making things out of linen, it still has the same kind of properties as cotton. So it's quite easy to manipulate and stuff, but it feels really good on the skin. And yeah, you can make things up quite quickly. Making shirts and stuff like that is not too difficult. And the fabric feels nice. So definitely a big linen fan at the moment. Another question I got was, what's your least favorite fabric to work with? It's the slippery ones. They're beautiful fabrics and you want to make all the luxurious things out of them, but they're so slippery that it's just stressful trying to like make things accurate. So I'm talking about like those silks, like the chiffons, the lighter weight fabrics, the ones that are like airy, like lighter than air. They are the worst because not only are they silky, but they're also like so light that if you were to throw it in the air, it would take 5 minutes to come down. And that is something that you need to try and cut accurately. It's impossible. You have to prepare so much for those kind of fabrics, like stabilization, using the right pins, because if you use your normal pins, you're probably going to rip a hole in it, using the right needle, making sure that your machine doesn't like eat it up, because the machine needs like substantial friction to be able to move the fabric through the machine. So if you've got something that's basically lighter than air going through the machine is just going to eat it because it doesn't even think it's there. So yeah, anything that I have to do like tons of preparation for, not usually my favorite, but those are usually the fabrics that look the most amazing when you make it into something. Like silks look amazing when made into shirts and dresses, but they're like so difficult to work with. So yeah, they're my least favorite, but it doesn't stop me from using them. I just have to be in the right mind frame to do all of that extra prep to get the same outcome. But like, yeah, if I had to choose, like obviously I will choose a linen or even a denim or a scuba or a crepe over a silk. Mostly because I don't have to do much, you know? I'm kind of lazy that way. So a lot of you have been asking me about like what's a really good beginner project to do if you're just starting out. Obviously, I will always say maybe try a little bit of like the home decor stuff first before you make clothes. So I know a few people will be starting out, be really scared to like make clothes, but like my first thing was a cushion cover. It was a great like entryway into sewing because it teaches you about your machine. You're only really sewing straight lines. But if you want to get into clothing, then I would probably start with like an A-line skirt or maybe like a blouse type top, something that doesn't have too many fastenings or like ruffles or anything like that. So if I had to recommend patterns off the top of my head, I probably couldn't, but what I will do is leave a few recommendations for some beginner patterns that you guys can have a look at, which will kind of like teach you how to do things because the instructions are teaching you, but you'll also have like something that you might want to wear. But yeah, I would say stay with the simple things first, A-line skirts, maybe a pair of shorts without fastenings, like elasticated waists. Try not to go towards buttonholes or zips for your first thing because they will just stress you out until you know what you're doing with a machine. Maybe elasticated things. Like an elasticated maybe circle skirt would be something that's quite easy to do after you've done the circle calculation. But again, those things, there are plenty of resources online for you to find those things. But yes. Okay, so the next thing that you guys have been asking me is mostly about online fabric stores. Now, as you can see, I have a little bit of a stash behind me, but the majority of these fabrics here have been like a collection of me traveling all over the place. I traveled quite a bit over the last 5 years, and every country that I've been to, I've always like gone out of my way to find a fabric store, because that's what I like to do. I like to pick up fabrics from different places. They invoke memories when I'm wearing whatever outfit I've made from them. But online stores, I guess with this lockdown and like with quarantine and pandemic, people are shopping online. So I guess there are a few places that I have shopped semi-regularly. Minerva.com is one of them. I actually shop quite regularly there. That's mostly because like the descriptions and the website is actually like very, very good, and most of the fabrics on there will have an accompanying video which will show you the drape, how it moves and stuff like that. So if you're wondering like, is this going to be thick, is it going to be thin, a lot of the fabrics will have a video that you can play, and the person is kind of just like moving it around, folding it, showing you what it looks like in a light, does it stretch, all the things that you might do yourself if you were in a fabric store and touching them. So Minerva.com is probably one of the more popular websites that I would shop at. Another place that I shop is Abercarn's. Now Abercarn's is a fabric store. There's like a chain of them, and they're kind of in the north of England. So they have an online store as well. So I normally actually go in person to the one in Liverpool because we visit Liverpool quite often. But they also have an online store as well. And they also have a huge haberdashery, as well as they doing patterns and other stuff like that. So I trust the store, which means I trust the website as well. And I don't know if they ship internationally, but I will leave all of the links down below so you guys can check out for yourself. Other stores that I would recommend, mostly the stores that I recommend are stores that I've actually been to in person, seen their stock, you know what kind of quality of fabrics they have, and then found out they have a website. So things like Fabricland, Dalston Mill, and maybe like Croft Mills, and I think there is one more, honestly, for the top of my head, can't remember, but yeah, there are a few. It is quite a lengthy subject, and I haven't visited all the online stores. So what I think I might do is make a separate video just talking about online fabric shopping, and it will also give me an opportunity to buy a ton of fabric from all these places, and we can just kind of go through the whole websites and reviews and just like prices and stuff like that. So if that's something you're really, really interested in, let me know and I will stop buying fabric straight away. So yeah, let me know if you want to see that video, because I think it'll be helpful, seeing as like so many of you have been asking about that. So another question that you guys have been asking is like, what are my favorite tools that I like to use? I don't know if they would be my favorite, but it's more like necessary tools that I need to use, like my little snip scissors. Don't know if you guys have been following me on Instagram, but I always lose my scissors. I have maybe 30 pairs of scissors, but I have one pair of scissors, and they're these tiny little multicolored scissors that I just love so much. I don't know why, I just do. So they are like my favorite thing to use, is like tiny little snips. All they do is cut, but like I absolutely love them. So I would definitely say having like a little tiny pair of scissors to cut those threads is definitely necessary. Another tool that I've actually really enjoyed using is my magnetic pin cushion. Having loads of pin cushions, I already have that, but having a magnetic one that you can just run over like your carpet. So I'm in a carpeted room. This room has carpet, so when I drop a pin, sometimes I lose it. So having a magnetic pin cushion really helps, because when I finished a project, or if I spill something, I can just run it over the carpet and that magnet just picks everything up, which really helps when you've got two little cats who are very, very nosy, and they know they're not allowed in this room, but as soon as I open the door, they're in here and just like sniffing everything. Like I don't want them to like step on a pin or something like that. So I do definitely make sure that I'm always using my magnets on the floor, making sure there's no pins anywhere. So I would definitely say, I guess if you have pets, that is an essential tool. I tell you something that is an essential tool, but I don't actually use as often as I should. It's a seam ripper. everyone should probably have a seam ripper to open seams, but I've found that my rotary cutter does a better job than my seam ripper. Now, my seam ripper is like a super large one, so I can cut through threads, but I find that by putting a little bit of tension on both sides so that you can see the seam that you're trying to cut open, and then just gliding that really sharp rotary blade right down the middle, it just cuts through like butter. It's a lot quicker, and I find that I have less accidents with that than I do with my seam ripper, where I've actually just gone whoop and completely like ripped across like a bodice and been very upset about it. So yeah, like probably not using tools in their conventional way, but you know, that's how I use them. They're like really basic tools, but I guess those are my favorite tools because I use them so often, because I make mistakes all the time and you always need to snip those threads. So my little snips that I absolutely love, that I keep losing so much that I had to put a chain on them and attach it to myself so I don't lose them anymore, and my rotary cutter that I use instead of a seam ripper. How do I sew so much, or where do I find the time? So I'm doing this all the time, like 24/7. I'm pretty much in this room all the time. So that is how I sew so much. But in order to be really, really productive, there are a few things that I do. In order for me to give you guys a video every month of all the stuff that I've made, it always seems like it's a lot, but I do actually structure how I'm making things. First things first, I have a list of things that I want to make. It's a list that I've had since the beginning of the year, and I am marking things off it. And if there's something else that I've identified, like I've got a gap in my wardrobe or something like that, then it goes on the list. And that list is usually full of like aspirational things, as well as gaps that I have in my wardrobe, or like something that I really wanted in a store, but it was really badly made and I've decided I'm going to make it myself. So that's usually the stuff that's on my list. And that list grows so long. It's also a seasonal list as well. Sometimes you'll see that there's like underwear on there might be swimsuits, but there'll also be like jackets and coats and other sorts of stuff. So what I will do is every month, at the beginning of the month or the end of the last month, I'll look at my list, I'll think about what I need to do this month and stuff like that, and I think, what do I want to make this month? We're just getting into September now. I'm going to start making clothes for like autumn and then winter. So I'm looking at shirts, I'm looking at jackets, I'm looking at cardigans, I'm looking at trousers, no more shorts, probably no more skirts or dresses. So I'll look at my list and see like what patterns that I've put there. Sometimes it'll be a specific pattern that I want to make, or sometimes it's just like a look, and then I'll have to find the pattern that gives me the best look for that. So I'll pick out like 3 to 5 projects that I'm going to do this month, and then I'll go about picking the fabric and getting all the tools together. So for instance, if I decide I'm going to make 2 pairs of jeans, a jacket and a shirt, then I will find the shirt pattern, I'll get the jacket pattern, I'll get the jeans pattern. And if I haven't already cut those out, I will spend an entire day cutting out all of those patterns. Like, we'll do all of them. We'll cut out the shirt pattern, we'll cut out the jeans, we'll cut out whatever. And then I'll spend another day getting that fabric, like pre-washing the fabric, laying them out, cutting out all of the pattern pieces that I need. So then I've spent 2 days out of my entire month where I now have all of my pattern pieces ready to go. The longest part of any sewing project is cutting out the pattern and then cutting out your actual like fabric pieces. The sewing part can actually be done quite quickly unless it's something super complicated. But for the most part, once you start putting things together, it comes together quite quickly. So if I can spend a whole day just doing the 2 tedious parts of the thing, then I can spend the rest of the month just picking up a project and then, you know, sewing it up within 2 or 3 days. So when you have a process like that, you find that you can actually get quite a bit done in 1 month. Even if you're like not doing it every day like me, you could definitely like spend 1 day on the weekend or maybe an afternoon and cut out all the paper pieces or stick together all your PDF patterns that you need to do that month. And then you can spend another afternoon cutting out all of the different fabric pieces in your various fabrics and then putting them in their piles. You'll have your shirt pieces and you can put your buttons there, you can put the interfacing there, you can put it in a little baggie and then just have it there ready to go with the pattern on it. And then for the rest of the month, if you have an afternoon free, you can just pick up that pattern and you start with the sewing. Instead of having to cut everything out, you can just get straight to the sewing. And yeah, you'll find that you can finish something in an afternoon, or you can finish something in 2 afternoons, and then you can go on to the next one when you're ready to. And like, even if you allow yourself to do one thing a week where you spend one day making something, that's 4 items of clothing that you made that month. And it's all because you took that 1 or 2 days or 1 or 2 afternoons to like do all the tedious part first. So that's pretty much how I plan my time around sewing, and how I'm able to like bash out so many projects. Sometimes I'll get 2 weeks into the month and I realize that I've sewed up the 4 projects that I planned for, and then I can actually spend another day cutting out maybe some more patterns and planning more for it. Planning like that allows me to be able to be more productive and get the things out that I really want to. It definitely works for me in my lifestyle. It will not work for everyone. It might work for you if you only have like a few hours at a time to do something. You can spend that first few hours just cutting out patterns, maybe 2 or 3, and then you can spend the next block of times cutting out the pattern pieces, and then your next block of time that you have, you can just sew one of them up, and then the next time you can sew another one up, and before you know it, you've made a bunch of stuff. So I don't know if that's going to be helpful to you guys, but that is how I managed to get so much stuff done. So those are mostly the questions that you guys have been asking me about, like fabric and about sewing and things like that. The next set of questions are like personal questions that you guys have been asking me. Now, I don't really tend to like divulge a lot about my personal life, mostly because it's like not really got anything to do with sewing, but you guys are interested, so I will give you a lovely bio of myself. Okay. So for those of you that do not know, my name is Aisha, spelt Ayisha, and I am 34 years old. Yeah, where has the time gone? I do not know. And I am a Gemini. I was born in London, but if you're wondering about heritage and stuff like that, mum's side of the family is from Ghana, dad's side of the family is from Jamaica. So that's the mix. I don't actually live in London at the moment. I live just outside of London, about 20 miles away in Kent. And I will soon be moving up to the north of England to live in Cheshire because I just bought a house. I have a boyfriend. His name is Sam. We have been together for 13 years. I met him when I was 21 and I'm 34 now. So we've been together a long time. We're not married. We're not engaged. We don't have kids, but we do have 2 cats and they are our babies. And yeah, that's pretty much the personal life stuff. Another question, which I got quite a bit of, is YouTube, social media, my full-time job? Running the Crafterpreneur is my full-time job now, but that wasn't always the case. When I started the Crafterpreneur, I also worked for a newspaper, and I also opened a studio in East London where I was teaching people how to sew, and that's where the YouTube channel started. In fact, if you go back to my very first video, you will see that the very first video I have on this channel is a tour of my studio in East London. That was a great little place, and I did pretty much everything with my own hands. So yeah, I had a lot of fun there, filmed loads of videos there, taught people, and also used to rent out the space for photo shoots because it had like loads of different walls. Unfortunately, we didn't keep the studio, but did keep the YouTube channel. And around the same time, I left my job to travel around the world with my boyfriend. And we did that for about 3-4 years before coming back here and kind of like settling in again. So now I work on the Crafterpreneur full time, which at the moment is involving a lot of like pattern making and developing of my pattern company. Which brings me on to the next questions you guys have been asking about. You want to know about this pattern company. So I've wanted to do this for a really, really long time. I wanted to actually start a fabric store first, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to like hold stock. And then the idea came about that I wanted to start making patterns. So I've been like quietly studying in the background, learning how to make patterns and stuff. I wouldn't say I'm an expert. I know how to pattern for myself, but to pattern commercially for other people, I still find it a difficult spot. So I have hired help, and at the moment we're in development of patterns, and hopefully sometime in the future, I'm not going to give you any dates because I don't want to rush myself and like rush launching something and it not being like very good. So just know that in the future, at some point, I will be releasing a pattern and then hopefully another one for you guys to buy and make. And yeah, that is like a dream that's coming true. I'm finding the whole process so fascinating, but it is a huge learning curve, having always been a consumer and now becoming a producer, it's definitely a different way of thinking. And there's lots of like things that you need to think about that I didn't have to think about before. So it is all very exciting, and I feel like I'm definitely growing and changing as a person because of it. I am a businesswoman now, and it's all very exciting. So yeah, like hopefully you guys will be there when I eventually get to make the video. Like, Crafterpreneur patterns is a thing. Here you go, have at it, have a go. Let me know what you think. I'll be very, very excited for that day. And yeah, so like if you guys are excited, let me know. Like, I would love to hear your thoughts about me creating a pattern company. But that's it. Yeah, that's it. Everything is like looking pretty good. The future is looking bright and exciting. I feel excited, and yeah, it's a nice distraction to like what's actually happening in the world all over, because let's not lie, 2020 has been a little bit of a nightmare horror story. So the fact that I've still got all these things going on despite what's happening this year is I'm very, very grateful for it, and trying not to take any of it for granted at all. So yeah, that is my life, guys. That's what I do, that's what I like to sew, and this is what I'm trying to produce in the future. That's it. Those are all the questions. There were a few like other questions, but those were basically the most popular questions that I was asked. I hope I answered them enough for you guys, and that is going to be it. So thank you for watching to the end of the video. If you enjoyed this video, then hit that thumbs up button. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like, how do you guys plan your projects? Like, what are your favorite tools and stuff like that? And if you haven't already, then subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.